Today, we are looking at a different aspect of faith and mental health. We are looking at our justice system.
For this important topic, we have the current Deputy District Attorney for Records, Diversion, and Record Restriction Unit of Fulton County and judicial candidate for Gwinnett County, Ramona Toole. Stay tuned for this exciting conversation.
I'm Natty.
I'm Vita, and we are here to thrive. Welcome back to Thrive by the Rising Muse. Today we have the privilege of sitting down with Ramona Toole. From her humble beginnings in Alabama to her current role as Deputy District Attorney, Ramona's story is one of resilience, service, and unwavering dedication to creating a safer community for us all. Welcome to Thrive, Ramona.
Thank you. Thank you, ladies.
Ramona, could you share with us what drove you to pursue a career in law, especially when you focus so much on creating safer communities?
Sure. So when I was of my mom and dad's kids, I'm the oldest. My dad has other kids, and he was a good man at that time to me. Now he was always physically abusive to my mother. By the time my brother and sister came along, he kind of lost his job at the steel mill. He started using crack. That was about the time of the crack problem, and he changed. And then he started. The short version is we experienced things in that household no kid should experience. We actually experienced things in that household. I don't think Stephen King could have wrote about it. And he would get arrested, and he would get released, and he would get arrested, and he'd get released. And it was during those times that he was in custody that we felt peace. We could sleep at night. Um, so I always felt like the criminal justice system let us down because they kept releasing him. And when he came back with a vengeance. So by the time I got to the eighth grade, I mean, I just felt hopeless in life. And I had a eighth grade civics teacher. His name was Larry Epperson, and he taught me about the law, how laws were made. And then he took me to the Jefferson County Courthouse. It was a class trip, and I met a black female judge. Now I didn't even know women or blacks could be judges.
Judges.
That blew my mind. And so I told her about my story, and she was saying how I could be a prosecutor and then become a judge, and that I can use my story as inspiration to do my job and to do it correctly. So it all started back in eighth grade. I always say it came out of eighth grade. I didn't want kids to go through what me, my brother, and my sister had to go through. My parents did finally get divorced when I was 15. And when I tell you we finally exhaled, because he went back to a woman he had already been with before and married her, and he left us alone. And we were able to sleep at night. And so I just want kids to sleep at night. They shouldn't have to go through what we went through.
Right. Awesome. Ramona, it sounds like I was listening to my own story.
Yes.
I grew up the same way. Fear of him. When they let him out, he came back worse.
Mhm.
And it took a while. It took a couple of years for me to sleep at night because I had gotten to the point where I had to go to a psychiatrist as a child, biting my nails, everything. So I'm sure that seeing that black female judge, that did something to you.
It did. She changed my life. Just those few minutes, and it makes me realize even now that the power that a judge has, more than just sentencing someone to jail, more than awarding money to a car accident victim, a judge has the power to change someone's life, to inspire them to be better, to inspire them to be great. And so that's why I ran. I want to make people safe and comfortable, particularly the kids, but I want to be an inspiration.
That's awesome. Faith often plays a significant role in guiding individuals through life challenges. How has your faith influenced your journey into the justice system?
So my mom was a preacher's kid. She used to baby us sick. and he was a Kojic, Church of God in Christ. So she grew up in the
Mm-hmm.
church. And when she had us, you were supposed to go to the church of your husband, but he didn't go to church, so she went to the church of his grandmother. And we were in church every day, I think, except for Friday. So,
Mm-hmm.
and we learned about God. We learned about prayer. And of course, when you're a kid, you're just going through the motion. But
Yeah.
and then I had a lot of questions and I had a lot of doubt while I was going through the things that I was going through as a kid. But when I grew up and started having a personal relationship with Christ, and that's what you got to
Mm-hmm.
have, I saw
Yeah.
things move. I started feeling comfort within my soul. So faith is extremely important in my life, not just in my professional life, in my personal life, because I would not be here without God. I would not be here at all. I'm supposed to, when you look at statistics, I'm supposed to be on the corner, selling something, okay? But my mama prayed, my grandmother prayed, my great grandmother prayed, and I'm here. And so I pray every day. And I ask God for help. I ask Him for strength. I ask Him for encouragement. I thank Him for what He has provided for me because I'm an attorney. And I ask for
Mm-hmm.
forgiveness for the sins I do and the sins I don't know that I do. Faith is important. And I can't imagine, to each his own, but I can't imagine walking this life without God by my side.
We can't imagine it either.
No,
Neither one of us.
no.
Okay.
Hmm.
I sure would not be sitting here
Wow.
without God.
Definitely. That's another podcast
Yeah.
episode right there.
How do you think your experience volunteering for organizations like CASA, Big Brothers, Big Sisters has shaped your approach to justice and advocacy?
So, particularly with the one of the programs I had, it was bridging the gap between law enforcement and the black male community. And I wanted to use my power because I had been a prosecutor. I knew dozens of black officers. And so
Hmm.
I had an opportunity to ask them from all across the state to come down to Norcross to the church and speak to a group of black males. And what I wanted them to do is to learn you don't have to be afraid of all of them. I wanted them to
Mhm.
learn how to act when you're stopped by an officer, how to respond,
Mm.
so that it's not always ending in a call to your mama saying, you need to come to the morgue, your son was killed.
Right.
So I
Right.
try to use my platform in my community service to bridge that gap, to let them know, first of all, there's hope. And second of all, there are people
Hmm.
in the criminal justice system that are here for you. We're not all bad
Hmm.
guys. We're not.
Hmm.
We have a whole Hispanic community out there that are afraid to call
Hmm.
911 because they don't
Hmm.
know, if they're undocumented, they're going to get deported and
Right.
separate from their family. And so a lot of times they're robbed because they're easy targets or they're subject to domestic violence and they're
Hmm.
afraid. So my whole goal was to bridge that gap between the Hispanic community and the police, to bridge the gap between African American males and the police. So I use my platform to have these community service projects to try to get people to know that there are some good people in law enforcement who genuinely care for you and genuinely want to help you out. We're not all bad. Some of
Hmm.
us are actually pretty
Right.
good. So I try to
Hmm.
Right.
do that. And then also with my community service with CASA and the rest, I wanted to form relationships with kids because people form relationship with me when I was a kid. They gave me some hope, and I want to
Hmm.
do that. So when kids come to me and they say, "Oh, I grew up in the projects in the hood and eating government cheese and powdered milk, and my parents didn't have college degrees. I'm not gonna be anything, sir. My daddy did crack
Hmm.
cocaine at the kitchen table. Okay,
Hmm.
you can be whatever you want to be.
Hmm.
Dream about it, pray about it, and then pursue it. So that's what I like to
Yes.
use my community service for.
That's awesome. In your experience, how does the legal system intersect with faith and mental health, especially when considering rehabilitation and support for people involved in the justice system?
Unfortunately, because separation of church and state, we don't
Hmm.
get to cross religion into the legal system. Now,
Hmm.
when I talk to my victims, I talk to my witnesses, and every now and then I get to talk to a defendant. If they open that door, and let me know they're
Mhm.
Christian, I kick that door wide open. But most of the
Right.
times
Hmm.
we
Right.
can't talk about it.
Hmm.
Now we do
Right.
have accountability court where they have mental health court, they have DUI court, they have veterans court, and drug court. And those are courts that's supposed to provide services to help, get people back on their feet, give them the tools they need so they can be successful. Now, unfortunately, with state court, they do not have a mental court yet. They do have a DUI court. And I know that the Solicitor General is working on trying to establish one. And that's one of the platforms that I run on, because we have to have a mental health court on the state court level. A lot of times those people are committing theft crimes, property crimes, maybe simple assault, simple batteries, because they have mental health issues. And the jail is not the place for them. They're not getting the help they need in the jail. They get maybe a pill, and that's it. So we have to create a mental health court where we give them services. We give them access to Viewpoint. We give them access to Summit Ridge, where we get them counselors and therapists, and we can get them medication, maybe help with housing. And the whole point is that maybe if we get them stable, they will commit less crimes. Less crimes make the community safer. So those types of programs, particularly mental health programs, are important in the criminal justice system. And I hope that we'll be able to expand that into state court.
You mentioned obviously the separation of church and state, but I also know that there's one of the things that I know the justice system does, especially in addiction or in anger issues. They refer people to programs. Are judges allowed to send the client? Well, I don't know what they're called, but the people to faith programs or just to secular programs?
A lot of times they send them to secular programs,
Okay.
unless that individual say, "Can I go to a Christian-based program or a
Okay.
faith-based
Okay.
program?" But a lot of
Okay.
times they're just sent to secular programs. And even if you
That
look
makes
at
sense.
triple A, I'm not triple A, AA,
Uh
they
huh.
do send them to AA, even though AA does have a
They do.
faith-based program. But I think because they're so well recognized, that's why they send them there.
Yeah.
But you don't want to send someone who may not believe to a faith-based program, because they're
Right.
not going to get the help that they need. So you
Oh,
you, you
absolutely.
try to meet the defendant, and that's what they are at that time, where
Okay.
they are, so that they can
Mm-hmm.
get the help. Because if they don't get the help, it's a waste of time, energy, and money.
Right. That's
Right.
true.
Right.
That's true. Do you believe that there's a way that we can reduce the stigma of mental health within the profession? And I think you were talking a little bit about that in the sense of so we've seen cases across the spectrum of people who need mental health treatment and they're criminalized. And that's not exactly where they need to be.
Right.
More education for policemen to not shoot an autistic child or somebody in the middle of a psychotic break.
Yeah.
So, what are the opportunities in the legal system to not only destigmatize mental health, but educate the people in the wheel of the justice system to service the mental health community better?
So when it comes particularly to lawyers, we need
Mm-hmm.
classes and we need training, and it's an easy way to get that. So every lawyer in the state of Georgia has to have so many CLE hours in order to maintain their
Mm-hmm.
bar. So maybe contacting the state bar and saying, can we have some classes where we learn more about mental health issues, so we'll know how to interact with the defendants or the clients or the individuals in the courtroom. And if we made it like a requirement or an opportunity for someone to
Mm-hmm.
take CLE classes, that would be well.
Mm-hmm.
Also, with law
Right.
enforcement officers, they're supposed to get
Mm-hmm.
post-certified. If we could make a class a part of, not just a class, they need many, but different classes on
Yeah.
how to handle someone who's having a psychotic break, and how to deal with people when they need that mental health assistance. So we have to make it, I think, in our community some type of requirement. Make it a requirement for the officers, make the Georgia Bar make it a requirement for the lawyers, and then the government agency over the judges make it a requirement for them. Because people are not going to voluntarily take those classes, because there are
Right.
people still in 2024 that they do not believe in mental health issues. They think it's not real, and it is
Yeah.
real. So
It is
Yes.
very real.
we have to make it mandatory so that people are forced to learn about it, and then maybe that'll change some. But I had an incident with someone that was having a psychotic break, and let me tell you, the Snellville Police Department, they're awesome. They were able to encounter that individual and bring that individual all the way down. And that individual was
Mm-hmm.
saying things like, "I'm going to take your gun, I'm going to shoot you." But that
Mm-hmm.
officer that came from Snellville Police talked her
Mhm.
all the way down, and we were able to transport her to Eastside Hospital and get her 1013. So there are some good officers that are able to recognize that someone is having a
Mm-hmm.
mental health crisis, and they're able to talk them down and safely
Mm-hmm.
get them to a hospital. So we just need to
Yeah.
get more
Mhm.
of those officers, and the way to do it is
Mm-hmm.
through training.
Yeah. Yeah, we definitely need to have police officers trained
Mm-hmm.
better
Hmm.
concerning mental health because, especially over the past few years, we've been seeing people call the police because their child or brother or husband, someone having um, um,
An episode.
an episode. Yeah, thank
Mm-hmm.
you. I had a senior moment. And a mental health episode. I mean, and when they came, they did not handle the situation well. And a lot of them ended up dead,
Hmm.
because of that. So when that happens and you see that on the news, it makes me think that a lot of people say, I am not calling, you know. They would rather not call because, of course, you don't want to see your loved one dead.
Right.
You want them to get help. So I am praying, and yes, I said praying,
Amen.
that there are more classes that are specifically for when you have a call
Mm-hmm.
about a mental health episode.
Hmm.
We need that.
We need that, but it needs
We
to be
definitely need that.
made as a mandatory class, an annual
Yeah,
mandatory class for all of us
yeah,
in the criminal justice system, lawyers, the judges, and the law enforcement officers.
yeah,
Hmm.
yeah. Oh, thank you for sharing that. Beyond your professional duties, we see that you're deeply involved in community initiatives such as Teen Unity Night and Justice for All. How do these efforts tie into your vision for creating inclusive and supportive communities?
We need our communities, regardless of race, regardless of sexual orientation, regardless of age and what they make. We need them to know that law enforcement is here to protect and serve. And so when
Mm-hmm.
I created different programs such as the ones you've named, they were to help bridge the gap between law enforcement officers and different communities. So
Hmm.
I was involved in communities that knew me, that trusted me, and then I was also involved with officers who knew me and trusted in me, and officers that I trusted. And I wanted to bridge the gap. And so a lot of those programs I did with the hope that they will walk away with telephone numbers. And there were several, with the ones with the Unity Night, there were several of the young black men that walked away with telephone numbers of law enforcement officers who agreed to be their mentors. And when I saw that,
Hmm.
it warmed my heart because they didn't get credit from work, they didn't get overtime, they got pizza and a soda.
Hmm.
Okay. But they
Okay.
walked away there with telephone numbers, and I had one particular young man at my church. They kept in touch with each other for a very, very long time. And so when he found himself in trouble, he reached out to that officer. And that's what I wanted to see. And so when I
That's
create those
awesome.
programs, it's to help bridge the gap. I don't want, you know, our kids seeing police officers and freaking out and getting scared. Because, they
Right.
say, oh, we saw somebody walking down the street, they started acting nervous, that made us think he was suspicious, so we approach. I want them to walk
Hmm.
down the street and say, hey, just like they walk down the street and say, hey to the mailman. And I want that
Hmm.
officers to walk down the street and say, hey, how you doing? And they go
Hmm.
fine and everybody go by their way. So I'm just trying to
Hmm.
find creative ways to bridge that gap.
Awesome. Because I know when a policeman gets behind me in my car, I remember one time I was terrified and I had to ask myself, what are you afraid of? You ain't do nothing.
Right.
You're not a felon. You didn't break out of jail or, and then I had to calm myself down. And it was only because the police were riding behind me. When I turned off, they went on about their business.
Right.
But it's that fear,
It's that
the
fear.
things that we see on TV
Mm-hmm.
and that we hear about. It's like I'm just an old lady in a Cadillac. All right, hello. But I got afraid. I got nervous.
Mm.
I didn't know what was gonna happen. But yeah, we do need for them to be trained
Yeah. And I have
and for them to connect with the community more so they can be trusted.
and trusted.
Yeah.
I would
Mhm.
say from Birmingham all the way up to Gwinnett, there are some wonderful officers, some
Mhm.
really phenomenal good officers. It's just that the
Mhm.
problem is that theory of one bad apple spoils the bunch.
Yes.
And so
Yeah.
if you really looked at the percentage of good and bad officers, it's really not that many that are bad. It's just those are the ones we
Mhm.
hear about, and then their acts
Mhm.
are so egregious. But there are a
Right.
lot of wonderful officers. I remember when we were in Birmingham, my great grandmother passed, we couldn't afford an escort, and there was a lot of us. This off duty officer saw us and took us all the way to the church house. He didn't have to do that. And
Awesome.
when he got to the church house, he took off. He didn't even wait for us to say thank you. So there's some
Mhm.
great, great officers. In my
Yeah.
community, they come out on Halloween night and play with the kids and,
Mhm.
watching them trick or treat and give them out candy. I mean, Snellville PD, I have no complaints at all. They're very good. So
Mhm.
I just want to create opportunities for the good officers, because there are a lot of them,
Mhm.
to meet the
Yeah.
people so that when they do pull up behind you, it may be coincidental, just
Yeah.
just
Mhm.
coincidental. You're not sitting up
Mm.
there, biting your nails and freaking out, you know,
Right.
Mhm.
because they a lot
Mhm.
of times they just going in your direction. They're not looking at you or checking you out.
Right.
They just need
Right.
to get to the corner and turn left while you get to the corner and turn right.
Right. And that's exactly what happened that day. That I was
Mhm.
very nervous.
Well, and the same is true for court.
Mhm.
Like I have been to court maybe a couple of times, and for a ticket, it was just a ticket.
I have to check her background closely.
Yeah. And the fact that when they call your name, you're shaking
I
because if,
know,
if I
right?
say the wrong thing, I don't want the judge to send me to jail. And and when you don't have and even though I'm a true crime
Buff.
fan,
Yes.
I am. I watch trials that are happening now and documentaries. I am. So I see a lot of judges on TV
Hmm.
and through documentaries and stuff. But when it was my turn to be there, just to say, yeah, okay, here I'll pay my ticket, it was a whole different experience.
Mhm.
Especially, I think it's the visual because the podium is so high,
Hmm.
and you see yourself like this little person, and they're gonna smite you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And no, they're human beings just like anybody
They
Sure
else.
are.
are, and Gwinnett County State and Superior Court have some phenomenal judges. The judge I was in
Yes.
front of, phenomenal judges. And
Hmm.
so, but it is that fear when you got to go into that courthouse. And some of
Hmm.
it may not be able to be helped, but
Hmm.
some of it can be. Like, it's hell, I'm here for a
Hmm.
traffic ticket. I know that's all I'm here
Hmm.
for. So let me go in and pay
Hmm.
this traffic ticket.
Hmm.
Mhm.
But there are some phenomenal judges in the Gwinnett County Courthouse.
Hmm. Yeah, I have to say they
Hmm.
Yeah.
are. What, in your opinion, what steps do you believe are essential for ensuring equal access to justice for all individuals, regardless of background or circumstance?
You got to treat them right. I talk about compassion, and then people misinterpret it. When I say compassion, when you come into my courtroom, when I'm elected, but when you come into my courtroom, I'm going to treat you with respect. I'm going to say, yes, sir,
Mhm.
yes, ma'am, or whatever pronoun
Mhm.
you want me to acknowledge.
Hmm.
Okay?
Mhm.
But you got to treat them with respect, and you got to let them talk. You got to let them be heard, because some people just want to be heard. And
Mhm.
even if I rule against them, I want them to walk out saying, I disagree with her ruling, but she listened to me. And we have to
Yeah.
do
Hmm.
that to people. We need to get from or behind the bench and get into the communities and make sure they see us. Now, we can't do it in our official capacity as a judge, but we can
Mhm.
get out there in the community, because maybe when you come in that courthouse, you go, wait a minute, That's the judge that I saw that man at the food bank. I saw her playing
Mm-hmm.
basketball with the youth. So we got to get
Mm-hmm.
out in the community and let them see
Yeah.
us as humans, you
Mhm.
know. But the
Yes.
biggest thing is we got to treat them with respect. We can't
Yeah.
Mhm.
yell at them and scream at them and call them out their name and refuse to
Yeah.
acknowledge their pronouns. If they want to be them, then it's them. If they want to be him, her, it's him, her. We have to meet them where they are with respect.
Mhm.
Definitely.
Mhm.
Definitely. Who? How do you prioritize your self care? Okay, and your mental well being amidst the demands of your role? And do you see opportunities within the legal system to address mental health challenges more effectively?
So I have to be intentional with
Mm-hmm.
my welfare because my life gets busy. I'm a supervisor and then I'm running three other units, and so I have to be intentional. So I have therapy. I get therapy twice a month. Uh, uh, the first week we do it telephone. Then in 2 weeks we do it via Zoom. And that was one of the good
Mm-hmm.
things that came out of COVID, being able to get therapy
Yes.
Mhm.
via Zoom. And I've been doing that
Yes.
Yes.
since 2019. And what
Mhm.
I tell people all the time, therapy is phenomenal. It works. But
Mm-hmm.
the
Yes,
key
it
is you
is.
have to find the right therapist. And it took
Mm-hmm.
me
Yes.
many, many years to find the right therapist. And now I have her, and she's great.
Mm-hmm.
So I have therapy, which is important. Um, if you are a Christian, you need a church home. You need to be in front of a body of believers. So when you are down, you can make that phone call, and them sisters gonna
Mm-hmm.
come over and they gonna lay hands on you and pray for you. Another thing I
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
try to do when I can is once a month I get a massage in my house because it's
Mhm.
hard to schedule outside the house.
Yes.
Mhm.
And
Yes.
the young man is a physical therapist, so he knows how to hit the right spots, and it breaks down all that toxics inside of me. And
Mhm.
then the other thing is I work out with a trainer twice a week, Trinidad
Okay.
Toby, really good guy. And that working out, even though I hate it, it helps. It helps to me. And then the
Mm-hmm.
last thing would be regularly doctor checkups. You need to go to the doctor.
Mm-hmm.
And women, we're horrible with that. We got a headache that's lasted 2 weeks, and then we go and it's something major. We need to go to the doctor and get checked out. Now, what I think people can do as far as our system is they already do it with I can't think of the name of the program where you can get the 4 therapy sessions for free at work.
EAP.
Yes.
Mhm.
What I think they need to do better is they need to do a better job in promoting it so that everybody
Yes.
knows. So what I do with,
Mm-hmm.
and I call my team my babies. They all my babies. Some of them are older than me, but they're my babies. But what I do for
Mhm.
my babies, if they say, "Hey, I'm stressed out," I send them home, and then I remind them about EAP because I want them to get that
Mhm.
mental health, and I let everybody know I'm in therapy. So,
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
and it works. And if you need a therapist, get some therapy. But we have to
Mm-hmm.
promote that EAP more. And we need to have more sessions than 4 sessions because a lot of
Mm-hmm.
people don't make the kind of money to have regular
Mhm.
sessions like I do. So
Right.
Right.
maybe give them 4 months of sessions instead of just
Mhm.
four
Yeah.
individual sessions. But we
Right.
Mhm.
have to promote mental health. We have to have that EAP,
Mhm.
and we need to do a better job in promoting it and extending it for all people.
Definitely.
I think as a community, in talking about the legal system, but this will be probably more on the political side, meaning the people who make the laws.
Hmm.
It will be to make those kind of numbers mandatory. I've been in the mental health system for a long time, and the majority of my experience has been in the insurance industry. And I remember when mental health was so despair that you could go to the doctor every day if you needed to, but you only had 20 sessions a year for
Hmm.
mental health until parity came and it created that you could have the same amount of, unlimited session. If your insurance said 20 for medical, then you had 20 for mental health. But since we know that medical was unlimited, it made unlimited for mental health.
Hmm.
Now, no, coming from the insurance industry, who determines how many sessions are in the EAP is the employer
Mm, okay.
because they are the ones who buy the package
Mm-hmm.
for the EAP sessions. And I had a great employer for the insurance that I worked for, that all their employees were Spanish speaking. So one of the things they did, they flew me from the insurance to their company to explain their benefits, because they wanted to really give access to their employees of those EAP benefits. So that was an employer that really cared and wanted their employees to have that benefit, not just have it hidden in the book and for people not to know about it, which happens sometimes.
Right.
So you talked about you have four. I know people who only have three or even less than that, just
Wow.
like an initial evaluation. So I think from the legal standpoint, and it would not be in the judicial side, but in the um, legislative branch of our government, to make sure that they create a minimum, just like they did with parity. Then they would have to create a minimum requirement for those services so that no insurance can provide less than.
That's a great
You
idea.
cannot create a plan less than 5, 6 sessions for EAP, because right now it's not even the insurance fault. If the employer decides what package they want,
Mhm.
and I've seen employers who are very rich in their benefits.
Mhm.
They want to take, and also I've seen with some that they decide, no, I'm not going to give them any EAP benefits or give them one visit. It's the employer who decides those packages. And I think as a community, and on our, well, not our end because I'm not in there,
Mhm.
but but meaning, the way to address that would be just like we did with parity, where it changed the way access changed and increased. They would have to make some kind of law or whatever that says that if you have insurance, you have to create EAP that is no less than whatever amount of sessions.
And we
Hmm.
really need it in the criminal justice family. And I say the family, the lawyers, the judges, and the officers. We see some we see some nasty stuff. When you think
Hmm.
about crimes against children,
Hmm.
murders, the sex trafficking, we see some nasty
Hmm.
stuff, and that
Hmm.
stuff messes with us. And so,
Yes.
definitely within this criminal justice family, we need to have some mandatory minimum that's higher than what they are. Sometimes when we try in cases on murders, we have to pick very carefully our autopsy photos or our crime scene
Hmm.
photos because we don't want to
Hmm.
trigger our jurors, but we want to get our story across, but we can't
Right.
trigger our juries. But in the meantime, we saw every single picture. When we're
Yes.
talking about the pictures with the pornography involving children,
Hmm.
we've seen every single picture, and that stuff haunts
Right.
you at night. That
Yes.
dead body in the middle of the street haunts you at
Hmm.
night. So
Hmm.
for the criminal justice system, I particularly, we need to
Hmm.
have more time in EAP.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Hmm.
Yeah. And I hadn't, as much as I watched true crime, I hadn't thought about that. The fact that, yes, the jury gets to see that, and I believe sometimes when cases are like that, they offer some services to
Hmm.
jurors.
They do sometimes,
Um,
but
they do sometimes.
but a lot of times jurors just want to get out of here, and they're running out the door. So,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard for us to talk to them to get their opinion
Hmm.
because
Right.
we've traumatized them and they're ready to go.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Hmm.
Yes.
So I agree, because you can try a murder case, and right behind that one is the next one,
Hmm.
and which is another murder case or pornography case or
Hmm.
whatever, and you're absorbing all that
You're
information.
absorbing it.
You can't escape it, because not only you it's not just seeing it once. You do conduct an investigation. You need to know how to prepare the case.
Hmm.
I hadn't thought about the how in depth
Hmm.
that is, and how important it will be for people in the criminal justice system to have more access to mental health.
And that's
You're absolutely
and
right.
that's why I'm glad I have a therapist because there have been times that I have had to call to debrief.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Wow.
No, yeah,
Wow. That's something.
that's deep.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, if you don't mind,
No.
I would like for you, Miss Ramona, to let us know what position you're running for in Gwinnett County.
Okay, I am running for Gwinnett County State Court Judge, and they do handle accident cases, some civil cases, um, DUI cases, traffic court cases, and misdemeanors.
Hmm.
Okay.
Mhm.
And when is the election?
Early voting starts April 29th to May 17th, but the election is May 21st. And the judges'
Yes.
races are nonpartisan, so they will be both on the Republican and the Democratic ballot. And because it's
Hmm.
nonpartisan, we will not be on the November ballot.
Okay.
Our race will
So
be
just in May.
our race will be
Separate.
decided in May. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
All right.
That's good.
Yes.
It's been an absolute pleasure
Awesome.
to
Thank you,
have you
lady.
here
I
Yes.
and to
appreciate
get
it.
to know you better.
Yes.
Like I said, as a fan of true crime, being able to talk to a prosecutor
Hmm.
is kind of like a dream.
Hmm.
So I appreciate your insight, and I appreciate that you were so transparent with your experiences. So I hope that through this conversation, our audience was able to get a better insight into
Yes.
the justice system, how the mental health, um, its influence within, and how it's worked. And I'm just grateful. I'm just grateful that you're here, and wish you the best of luck on May
Hmm.
21st.
Thank you,
Yes.
ladies.
And
I appreciate it.
I'm thankful because this lets the people, it lets the people know what you stand for,
Right,
what you support, where your heart is and where your passion
right.
Yeah.
is. So that's why we wanted to interview you and get this out to the public so that they can see, and especially seeing one of our own, a beautiful black woman who's passionate and wants to better the legal system. And we're just proud of you and
Thank you.
just proud to know you.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate
Thank you, ladies, for this
Thank you so much.
opportunity.
Yeah.
you.
Thank
Thank you.
you so much. Have a great day.
Thank you to all of our audience for being with us today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that you don't miss a single episode.
Follow us on social media to keep the conversation going. Next time on Thrive, as we continue to explore stories of hope, resilience, and the human spirit. And until then,
Stay well and keep thriving.
have a blessed day.
Bye bye.